what an amazing week we've had in the last week. A lot of cool things, right? So a lot of uncertainty or variety, as Tony Robbins teaches it. And I'm going to share some things right now that are very applicable in the month of March. The topic is how to make money before you buy, but I actually want to cover some other items with you. So for those of you guys who raise your hands, you guys can type in questions on the question bar and we can answer some questions for you. So right now we've had a lot of different things happening. I want to talk about three different things with you. One is with the Fed lowering interest rates. Okay, so that's one topic I think that's really important to do. Two is job security from 2008 versus now. And then the third thing is what to do to prepare for investing on current deals. So if you guys, that gives you an example of what we're going to cover on this call. We're actually going to distribute this next month or next week. I'm going to have a call for everyone. We're going to open that up because, hey, what's up? Thank you for you guys responding. We're going to open up this for a lot of different people because we have a lot of people who don't know what's going on right now. So first couple minutes, I always like saying what's one good thing or thing you've accomplished in the last week. So if you guys can type in what's something that you've accomplished in the last week, that's really good to do. In knowing what you've accomplished, then it gives them some traction or progress. So we said I was going to go to Tony Robbins' event, but I stayed here and worked. Okay, that's good. I chose to take advantage of the break, hanging out and watching TV with my family. Okay, that's good. I did some planning about some real life goals. That's good. I got a great deal on silver in the place. Okay, that's good. I took some money and put it in the stock market to bet for penny stocks. That's good. And I also got I am alive. That's awesome. All right, so I'm going to talk about the Fed's lowering interest rates. So this will be really important for you guys to take into consideration. So basically on basically on Sunday, the federal government reduced the interest rates to all the institutional banks, okay? And here's what that means. So the federal government lends money to institutional banks. The difference between the federal government lending to institutional banks is then the institutional banks have their margins and lend to us as consumers. So most banks lend on safety deposits on 10 or 20 to 1. Okay? So most of them lend on 10 to 20 to 1. What that means is, let's say you have $100,000 in the bank, and I'm just going to use $100,000 for this example. They're going to lend out $1 million to $2 million of your money leverage to auto loans, mortgage notes, credit cards, installment loans, business credit cards, personal loans, lots of different things. Okay, so this is important for you guys to understand because this was really prevalent during the correction from 2008 to 2011 that I learned to flip properties with the downturn of the market. Okay, so the last 8 years we've only seen the market going up. So some different things to consider. Now, with the Fed lowering the rates to zero, that affects prime. The margin between prime, it goes up and down. And I'm actually going to show you guys this in an example of what prime is, because lines of credit and credit card is attached to prime. So prime interest rates, okay? So prime interest rates, this is good that you guys are going to be able to watch this later. So prime interest rates right now, we'll just go on Google. If you guys are in front of a computer, I would do this also so that it allows you to look at what different interest rates are. So the current prime interest rate is 3.25. So if we want to go and look at what the history of prime has been, so I'm going to do historical interest rate of prime history. Let's do this. Give you guys an example, because then, nope, sorry, wrong one. Prime interest rate history. Okay, so why this is important for you to know is that you will have a better idea of where the economy is as we have different ebbs and flows, right? So if you guys look, we've been as low as 3.25 in right now, currently March, right? We hit 3.5 in 2015. So it's got different ebbs and flows of what prime has been. So I'm going to show you guys an example of 2000 to 2009, just to give you an example of where prime was back then. And we're logging this into having it pull up. Okay. And cool. So in 2002, the end of 2001 is when I started writing mortgages. In March of, let's see, prime went as high as 9.5 in 2000. So that was 20 years ago. That means if you had a credit card, your interest rate was 12 above prime, your interest rate would have been 21.5%. Right now, if you're 12 above prime, your interest rate is like 15%. Okay, so this is the margin of what the difference is between prime. So if you'll notice in 2002, we had different challenges with the bubble burst, right? Like the stock market because of tech. So then if you'll notice over here, what prime did, it went back up to 8.25 in 2006 because the economy super frothy, was healthy. So here's the question. How many of you guys on here actually owned a property in 2006? So if you owned a property in 2006, I want you to type in, say, I owned a property in 2006. Because in 2006, I actually purchased 13 properties that year. So that was 14 years ago. Okay, we got a bunch of not me's or I didn't, or got a couple people that did. Okay, I owned a property in Las Vegas in 2006. Awesome. Okay, so as we keep going and sharing, you guys will notice, well, what happened in 2008? We, in the real estate market, not just the real estate market, everywhere, actually everywhere, different parts of the market hit their peak in 2006 and 7. Utah hit their peak actually in 2005. So other parts of the country, Arizona, Nevada, Florida, Arizona, Florida, California, they hit their peaks about 2 years before Utah did. When big started going out of business, Utah hit its perfect storm in the summer of 2007 going into 2008, where we hit the peak literally of values. Like literally a house would not appraise 6 months later for lots of different reasons. Now, right now, I've had some appraisals from people that have purchased properties last year that are refinancing, and they've come in, appraisals have come in lower. I've also had people that bought properties last year that the appraisals have come in higher. Normally, what we see is the downturn of the market seasonally based on comps. So if you got an appraisal uh, done in January, normally those comps are December, November, October. Those are normally September, October, November listings. So it just kind of gives you a lull or an idea. So what I'm suggesting for a lot of people is to pull money out of their houses if they're able to qualify. I think everyone should have, if you're going to invest in real estate, I think you should have 12 months of living expenses saved before you're buying any deals. I actually think if you have 12 months of living expenses saved, then after that, go invest. Normally, I would suggest 6 months. Now, why do you suggest 12, Matt? That's a great question. Because here's a good example. If your operating capital is like $6,000 a month, 6 times 12 is 72,000. If your income goes down, there's a lot of people in the last 3 weeks who now don't have jobs, and they are not in a very good spot, unfortunately. Now, if you have 6 to 12 months of living expenses, I would encourage you to continue to invest. You just need to be a little more diligent with what type of deal you're buying, okay? So, Matt, can you show us prime after 2008? Absolutely. So from prime to 2008, if you'll notice, so this works that quick. Prime stayed that low and did not go up until 2015, and then you guys will notice in 2018 we went to 5.5, which is still really not that high, and now we're down to 3.25 in like 2 weeks, right? So it dropped a full point. So what does that mean as we kind of go back and recap, right? So as we go back and recap, how does that affect you guys as real estate investors? A couple of things with that. Actually, here's a question. How many of you guys are actually in the process right now of refinancing or buying a property? Because I'm going to give you some different suggestions which are important. If you guys are in the process of refinancing or buying a property, here's a couple of things to consider that most mortgage professionals are not going to share, or they're going to share with you in a different way that I'm going to be a little more transparent because I want you to succeed. Good. We have about 5 or 6 of you of about 30 plus. So rates are varying quite a bit every day. I anticipate, me personally, that they're going to continue to vary quite a bit a day. Rates were lowest at the all-time high 1 week ago. What is today? Today Tuesday? No, today's Wednesday. All right, sorry. Can't remember what damn day it is. Every day is like a day that ends in variety in life. It's very entertaining for myself. Rates were the lowest on Monday the 9th. You could have gotten locked in on an owner-occupied rate at 2.75, which is freaking amazing. On Tuesday the 10th, they went up 50 basis points. That is a ton of volatility in one day. On Wednesday, a week ago today, they went up another 0.25%. So, for example, if you wanted to refinance your house on Monday, but you just didn't get around to it, and you decided to do it on Tuesday, but then you're like, oh my gosh, my rate went from 2.75 to 3.25, and then on Wednesday my rate went from 3.25 to 3.5. A lot of people are like pissed. I'm like, I want lower than that. Well, here's my comment. They're still amazingly low. I would suggest you guys to pull money out of your house to have capital, unless you already have a bunch of capital. With that though, when the Fed lowered the rates on Monday, they were really volatile. Yesterday were good. They went back to 3.25, and now they're back to like 3.5 today. So I would suggest you guys lock in with whatever makes sense for you guys financially. Get your capital running with it. So that's how the Fed is affecting rates. Now let me share job security from right now, at least in Utah, but other parts of the country. Actually, let's pick Las Vegas. Las Vegas, the hotels are shutting down. This is different than 2008. People went to Las Vegas still, but because they did not have extra discretionary income. So if you'll notice, travel's reduced. The reduction of going out to eat's reduced, going to movie theaters, different things like that. It's a great opportunity for us to eat healthier and clean and better, right? With that also being what's important, why are the fees going up or down based on REITs? So if you look at the same rate, those fees are going to go up or down depending on where the bond market is. So for example, yesterday for us, it was better to lock the loan yesterday than locking the loan today. Okay. So with that, with the volatility of the stock market in the United States and internationally, we're going to continue to see a ton of different variety. An alternative, if your interest rate or fees went up, you can take on a higher rate. Okay. So let's go back to job security from 2008 versus now. So different from 2008 to now, based on what we're experiencing, most of the people in the real estate, mortgage, title, construction, developing, a lot of those jobs went away, right? Like those dried up in like 12 months. It's kind of similar, unfortunately, of people that are in hospitality, travel, hotels, cleaning, entertainment. So it's kind of interesting. There's a switch of who does or does not have jobs versus who does or doesn't right now. For example, in real estate, mortgages, finance, I have a friend. He graduated from Columbia, which is an Ivy League school. He got his degree in Masters of Real Estate Development. He literally graduated in 2008, like the worst freaking time in that industry to go get a job. He lived in New York. He could not get a job for 12 months. He tried every day, like no bullshit. This guy told me he woke up, dressed up, dressed up in a suit, and interviewed for tons of different jobs. He finally got a job at Chase Bank as a personal teller, as a banker, excuse me, as a personal banker. And I was like laughing at him, like, oh my hell, like not laughing at him. I'm like just laughing at the scenario, saying, dude, you just freaking got your master's of real estate development from Columbia University, and you are a teller. Like, what weird situations that we have going on. My income also got cut down 50% then, so we laughed at each other, right? So life happens for us, not to us. With that being said, so what do you need to do to modify now? Here's what we're doing. With the earthquake, most of you guys have actually who loved the earthquake. That was like way freaking fun this morning. Um, that was a funny experience with the earthquake. So what I would do right now is number one, make sure you have at least 12 months of living expenses saved or liquid. Here's my comment. Good question. What do you think about home equity lines of credit? I love home equity. I love home equity lines of credit. I just don't love if they freeze. During the market correction, home equity lines of credit did freeze. So what I would take into consideration is if you have opportunities to lend or have capital, I think having 12 months of living expenses is super conservative if you know what your expenses are. If you don't know what your expenses are, then it's a great time for you to dial that in. Does it mean you need to tighten up everything? No, it just needs to be you need to be fiscally responsible with what you're buying. Now, what would I buy? I'm still going to buy some income properties. We're actually going to be selling probably a million to million plus more than what I was planning on doing this year. I want to unload the ones that are like my D properties or C properties, right? They might be D properties with C types of tenants, or they might be C properties with D types of tenants. Interesting. We just took out a HELOC for 200K 10 days. So again, good. I think getting lines of credit are absolutely important to have available, but I also think it's good to have cash. So different thing with job security. Not knowing how this virus or is going to impact us in addition to our amazing, what do we have? Earthquake, right? A couple other things to take into consideration. What to prepare and invest on current deals. Okay, so here's what we're doing listing our houses. So knowing that in Leaston, Utah, and I'm getting emails right now, prime drops to 3.25. We got that right. So knowing that there's real estate deals, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to act as if I have a 5 to 10% reduction in values. Now, does that mean we're going to go down in a blazing glory? No, I'm just being prepared for it. What else does that mean? It means I'm going to be proactive renting out my properties. I'm going to verify all of our tenants' work situation 90 days ahead of time because you might expect for people to consolidate. So you might have like families going to smaller homes that they can budget or manage. You also might have smaller families going to larger homes and having two family households going into that. You should all establish your own rental criteria. We're going to do a class on Tuesday the 7th, probably from 7 to 9, or probably 6:30 to 8. I'm going to do a live webinar. If the moratorium is up, we're gonna have it live, or people that you guys can show up. If not, I'm going to do a class because I think it's important of like how to navigate through this. But I would like to see like what questions do you guys have with this investing environment that we can help you with, and then also what are you doing with your current deals? So houses that I'm flipping, I'm going to call all my contractors. I'm normally going to have only 3 people at the house at a time. If it's a smaller house, we want to be conscientious of social distancing. What I've read based on the internet, as long as you know, like tons of people can go work outside. So we're actually modifying our contracting for the spring. We're having our contractors do as much work as possible outside right now. And then if it's a rainy day, we're going to have them actually go inside and work on vacant homes. So the cool thing is we're adapting to our schedule. It's going to be a little extra planning for my team, but my team is really good that they're just going to plan and kind of prioritize what to do. And order of prioritization. What else that you can do? So questions. Some of you guys have some really good questions. Some of you guys are like, Matt, if you were going to flip a property right now, what would you do differently knowing what you know? Okay, great question. So a couple of things. One is I would plan on the contractors to either be backlogged with work with materials. Depending on the type of materials you're going to be buying, you might have some challenges with that. We're actually buying, so if you have 3 or 4 flips going on right now, and or you're going to be doing in the next 45 days or so, I would actually encourage you to buy all the paint up front. I would encourage you, because you can use that from house to house to house, so you can plan how much paint you need. I would plan on buying all the exterior paint up front, okay? Because you might have some different vendors might close down. We don't know that, right? Just acting as if. So I think painting is always a good thing you can do inside and outside. I think I would measure, if you're going to do windows, I'd measure all the windows up front right now. We might see either that slow down depending on where they're manufactured. We might see those increase, just giving you some different alternatives. If you have service calls, I would contact your vendors and find out what are they doing to be as compliant as possible to help fix stuff. I think that's being proactive. Another thing that I would do that we're doing right now is planning backwards based on the weather, right? So every morning, actually, today is the first day I've watched the news in the morning all year. I can't remember watching the news in the morning except for today. And the only reason we watched it is I watched my wife and 9-year-old son react differently to the earthquake, which was really crazy. Actually, here's a question for you guys. You guys, a lot of people are on here. What are you doing? How many of you guys are actually going to get bids on earthquake insurance? There's a question. You might not want to call your insurance person today. They might be slammed. Oh, there's a moratorium. Someone just over. They jumped in the phone call. There's a moratorium for 30 days on earthquake insurance. Okay, well that's good to know. So, but it's good to find out different things. Another thing that I would take into consideration is reviewing all of your insurance policies right now. So let me share 3 things if you guys want to write this down. I know you guys are listening to this. Number one is what is your rent? Can you get any type of perils if something happens with your tenant with a natural disaster? What does a peril mean? Is there anything to protect yourself to cover your rent if the tenants can't pay? Number one. Number two, do you have sewer line backup coverage? I'm helping you kind of mitigate catastrophic things that might only cost you a few dollars a month. That's something to take into consideration. Number three, a lot of the real estate investors, once you guys move out of your houses, you guys don't change your coverage. I would actually find out if there's a supplemental coverage you can do with earthquake, just to find out different things to take into consideration. So, questions for you. What are you guys more conscientious of? The Fed, and if you guys can type in, this would be awesome. Are you more conscientious of the Fed lowering the interest rates? So type in number one. Are you more conscientious of the job security from 2008 versus now? You can type in number two. Or are you more conscientious of what to do to prepare for investing on current deals? So I want you guys to type what you guys are the most interested in. And if you guys can type in 1, 2, or 3, this will help me give you guys some more tools to help you out with these different economical situations. We have a bunch of people on the call. We just need you guys to participate and type in 1, 2, and 3. It's good as we're getting different information. Just type in one number primarily, because then I can help you out. We got a bunch of number 2. There are a lot of people worried about their jobs. A lot of people worried about their jobs. Okay. So let's kind of talk about that for a couple minutes. Let's talk about what I'm doing right now as being a landlord, and then I'm going to share what I'm doing with borrowers, because being a landlord and working with borrowers are similar. So we're going to call all of our tenants in the next week and find out how they're doing to get a pulse on them. I think us being proactive to communicate with our tenants is super important. I think that here's one scenario. Depending on people's financial situations, you can buy things at really good discounts right now, unfortunately, because people need to. So that's something to take into consideration. The second thing to take into consideration, I wish I would have sold my BMW a couple months ago. So I'm sitting in the car in my garage. The second thing is calling your tenants. Let me talk about real estate borrowers. So we're seeing that a lot of first-time home buyers that are in the service industry have some capital tight, some tight capital, which is totally understandable. So I think what we'll see is some leveraging differently on multiple offers. There's some security or certainty by knowing that you have a good job, you're able to cover your bills, and you can have a place to live. With that being reverse engineered, what I would suggest is being more conscientious of what market rents are. I think it's more important to have your properties filled quickly with qualified people to the best of their ability versus sitting on the market for 1 or 2 months at a time. We normally start getting really busy in April or May with renewals. So what we're doing ahead of time is verifying, just checking in on people to see where they're at and how they're doing okay, because we don't know how long this will be. Something I learned from Keith Cunningham, I actually got an email this morning from him, is he said, having cash is like having oxygen. Once you run out, you're dead. So I thought that was really interesting of just saving up with cash. Does it mean you don't invest? No, it just means you got to be really prudent with what you're doing with. So what I'd like us to do is we kind of wrap up with some different ideas. The topic is how to make money before you buy. So let's kind of recap with this. Number one is 12 months of living expenses saved. Okay. Number two, what can you reduce? What monthly expenses can you reduce? Okay, so monthly expenses can you reduce? That's just a personal thing, right? That doesn't mean this is just being proactive. That's all it is. Now, here's the other thing. What other opportunities make sense for you financially? So, here's a good example. 2020 is the year of the Matt Atkinson pool, POOL. My wife and I spoke this morning and said, hey, look, here's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to get more capital right now. I'm going to delay. We already got our bids. We've already picked out. I've not put a deposit down. I said we are going to delay this POOL or pool for 30 days because I don't want to invest in a pool where I need the cash for some other stuff. So just giving realistic expectations of how to monitor or manage with what we got going on. With that, I think that as you guys do this, have 12 months of living expenses, you can reduce some monthly expenses just to trim the fat. It's not a bad thing. I'm not going out to eat. That'll be good for my chin and then also for my weight. And then the other thing is to look at is, hey, what's good of this? Like, what are other opportunities that we can capitalize and buy? So, as far as real estate investing, fix and flips, and buy and holds, and lending hard money and land development, I think that if you plan on having a 10% price reduction on your fix and flips, regardless if I'm wrong, you'll be more prepared for margin. With that, we appreciate you guys listening to the MJ Real Consulting call the day of the earthquake in 2020. What an amazing time of year. March is got a lot of fun things going on. But what I want to know is what's one thing you're going to do between now and next week? If you guys can type this in, what is one thing you're going to do between now and next week? Like right now, it's more important than ever to hear the right information for you guys to make informed decisions. And that's why we're happy to do consulting with you guys because we're going to see how we can help you progress and navigate through these waters of real estate investing. So I'm going to call all my tenants to see how they're doing good. I'm going to call all my tenants and see how I'm doing good. I'm going to reevaluate the current projects that we're doing right now to call our contractors. That's good. We're going to have review the options of having 6 months in savings. That's good. We're going to proceed with a refinance to pull cash out so we have the capital. That's good. One other thing to take into consideration is as you navigate, you guys can also look at utilizing the stock market, right? Like there's a lot of uncertainty right now, but I have talked to some people saying, hey man, we're keeping some cash and we're going to go in and buy because in a 5 or 10 year period, it's going to be a really good thing. Reevaluating my home purchase, I think it's always good to reevaluate. And the cool thing is, if you write out the exercise on the consulting website right here that I'm going to share, you guys all can go through this exercise. And we encourage you to go to our event in May. We're still planning on having it. But if you guys write out your what's the upside, what's the downside, and can you live with the downside? As you go through that process, you guys will be more informed to make the best financial decisions. So we look forward to having you guys participate next week and hope you guys have an amazing day. Sorry, one other thing I want to share. This Saturday, I'm going to be on a radio show. I think it's K Talk. I'm 90% sure. I'll do a Facebook post. We'll send out an email, but I'm going to be on a radio show, and the topic is how to navigate financing through these financial times. I'd strongly encourage you guys to listen to it. My friend Yoshi Shiraki is the moderator, so we're going to share different information for you guys to be able to leverage, and hope you guys have a great day. Thanks. Bye.